don't approach the press with something that has been written by ChatGPT or any AI.
So today I've got on the podcast Maria Bello. Maria is a good friend and she is part of the community at the moment that we're in. And I just wanted to interview Maria because she is, I wouldn't say an expert, but she has a lot of experience in getting exposure in the press. All right, it's extremely hard to actually get exposure in the press. And Maria managed to do it. So that's what I want to talk to Maria about today. So Maria, thanks a lot for actually coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Des.
No, you're welcome. So, Maria, one of the first questions I have is a lot of people think they are not either important enough or they're not experienced enough to actually go and, try and get the press. What advice would you actually give them for somebody that's kind of doubting whether they should actually approach the press in the first place?
I would say respect your knowledge. I respect the fact that you do know what you will be talking about. And that's what matters on most instances. If I could give 3 pieces of advice for any beginner.
Oh, yes, please.
First of all, practice your writing. That is very important. Don't approach the press with something that has been written by ChatGPT or any AI. Because once I think now you have to disclose it, and 2, they can spot it from miles away. And that's already a burned bridge.
Yeah.
That you can't come back from.
Sure.
The second piece of advice would be network.
Okay.
First of all, make connection. That is so important. It is partly what you know and partly who you know that matters. So website like, platform like X, Facebook groups where journalists hang, just chat with them, just normal conversations. Sometimes you may find that they have interests in common with you. That's a good way to break the ice. And third, and I would say it's probably the most important and the one that a lot of people are not thorough enough, and is that when a journalist puts a request out, they're very specific on what they're looking for. They're very specific on how they want to be contacted. All the details are in plain sight on the platform of their choice. So to make sure that you read what the post is saying, that you understand it so that you don't end up asking questions that have already been answered, or that you start DMing them when perhaps they've asked you to just send them an email with your pitch. So these are the 3 most important
Thank you so much.
to start.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate that. And maybe I should have actually asked you what publications you managed to actually get into. And I should have started with that. I do apologise. So the publications that you managed to get into and what it was that you actually wrote to them with in order to publicise yourself.
So because I have experience in the fashion world and in the spiritual world, I was able to kind of leverage the 2. So my first article, interesting enough, was about ChatGPT and how people are using AI to have their color analysis done or body shape done, or some people are using them as life coaches, and what it actually entails on an identity level. Why are people doing that?
Sure.
And why is not a good idea, and they should actually refer to a human expert for advice. Because in my field, I was talking about, there was this wave of apps doing color analysis and body shape analysis. And I tested a few of them, and they were incorrect. So the results they were given were incorrect. And most of these apps were made by companies that have nothing to do with personal styling. So that was my first article, and it got published in London World and on MSN.com.
Nice.
That was the first time. My second article was in The Sun.
Okay.
And it was a very vulnerable one, but I made the decision to be that vulnerable on national press of all places, because it's one of the things that I teach as a coach. And it was basically a journalist writing a piece on doom spending. So I explained to her my experience and how I overcame it and how I now help with my coaching people, especially women, overcome these spending habits.
Okay.
Then my other one was in The Guardian, and it was an opinion piece on an high street brand, which I can't name, on their thermalware. What else? Then I was on Living 360.
Okay. That's right.
Living
Impressive.
360 was actually about nail polish trends for the winter season and what it means from an energetic perspective, because I always try to incorporate spirituality in fashion because everything is very much related. And another one was for Apple News. Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
And it was about how to style yourself if you don't like your arms. So it was a joint piece. There was fitness trainer, a nutritionist, me as a style expert. And in all these cases, there was a journalist who put an advert out or a filler out on Facebook or on X. And because it was my field of expertise, I just simply read what they were looking for, followed the instruction how they wanted to be reached, and I pitched them. And very important was the fact that I provided like what I do for my clients. So I gave like kind of like a social proof that what I do is not something that I just Googled, but it's something that I do with my clients. And that was about it. So it's not difficult. It's not difficult. I think another very important that when you're at the beginning, you always think that you need third-party help to do something. And you will always find, especially PR companies, that will tell you you're never going to get in the press unless you pay me $2,000 to work with me.
Sure.
That is true to a certain extent, in the sense that if you've been around for a while and you want to reach publication like The Times, Vogue's, like really, really big name, then the PR would be the best option to get through the door. And the reason is very simple, because PR are kind of like a buffer in between you and the publication. So they trust certain PRs, a certain agent to do the vetting and making sure that whoever they bring to them has got something important to say, has got usually a big following on social media, so that when they put the name out, you know, they will be clicking and people buying the newspaper and things like that, all this dynamic. But when you are at the beginning and you really want to put your name out there, it can be simply done by yourself if you follow the 3 pieces of advice that I shared.
Which is excellent, by the way. So would you recommend going for a smaller publication initially and then going after the big boys like The Sun and The Guardian and 360? Or do you just say go for it?
I would say go for it, because you never know. You never know. Once you're prepared to, I wouldn't say rejection, because they never have the time to reject a piece, but be prepared to not hear from them for a while. Just pitch them. Just pitch them. As long as you've got the detail right of who you have to contact, as long as you are an expert in what they're asking for, and it's not something that is coming out of ChatGPT or any other AI. And I'm sorry for stressing that. I believe in AI. I have nothing against it. I use it.
Sure.
But a lot of people nowadays have become experts thanks to ChatGPT, and journalists can spot that.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. So, what advice would you give somebody then? Obviously, you mentioned the likes of X, where you can basically look for certain journalists that are actually putting information out. I noticed you didn't say LinkedIn as well, by the way. I don't know whether that was on purpose, or can you actually use LinkedIn as well? Because I would have thought that had been one of the most obvious places.
Journalists, to my experience, don't put their pitches or their feelers out on LinkedIn.
No?
No, I've never found one. So interestingly enough, my very first writing experience for a magazine was from LinkedIn, but
Okay.
and it was in 2020, my last fashion week before COVID. I was asked to be fashion correspondent for luxury magazine in Monaco, south of France. But I didn't get the position because they put the feeler out that they were looking for someone. I basically met this gentleman who's the owner and editor-in-chief of the magazine. And the connection was that we are from the same region in Italy. That's how we started. Yes, that is actually how we connected. And then we just started talking, and he said, oh, I have this magazine, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, I'm actually going to London Fashion Week. And he said, oh, so why don't you go as my correspondent? So that was my very first experience as in the press,
Sure.
so to speak. And it was, I don't believe in coincidences, but it wasn't something that I applied for. It's just somebody who asked me to do that. And I want to say something. Before getting to that point, I never really believed that I could write. Like even going to school, it was never my strongest suit, whether it was
Sure.
in English or in my native language. But because I was so passionate about the topic that I was talking about, because when we're in school, we don't necessarily write about the things we like. We write what we're asked to write about.
Sure.
It made me come out of my shell and made me realize that actually I can write. Even despite teachers in school telling me the opposite, I can write if the topic of the conversation is something that I love. So that is really important. Don't try and be in the press for something that is not your expertise or something that you're not really passionate about. Because readers can, through your words, can have that feeler whether you know about your topic, whether you really mean what you're saying, or if you just wrote it to say I'm in the press.
Yeah. And does it help as well, Maria, that you write in a publication like Substack, for example? So you have written content already, so the journalist can actually go search you out, read what you've actually said, and they kind of know that you're worthy of actually becoming an expert on their publication, for example, on their publication.
100%, that, or any other blog, anything that can be found on Google. I always also put the link to my Substack so they can have proof of my writing. And that is one of the best ways for you to practice and get visibility. Practice your writing and make it more natural and more you. Another one is Medium.
Yep.
Medium has the bonus factor that they have their own publications. So if your piece is chosen and gets published in one of their publications, that counts as seen in the press. While with Substack, they're not there yet.
Right, okay. So would you say like Medium's a little bit more prestige at the moment than Substack? If you've written an article, there's more chance of it being shown, and the journalist would probably use that more than a Substack article, for example.
No, I don't think so. I think they serve different purposes. Because Substack is, is linked with YouTube, is linked with Pinterest. They now have their own TV channel in beta. So it serves a different purpose. It gives you a 360 degrees visibility. If you write, if your writing is SEO friendly, can easily be picked up by Google and everything. Medium, if you're good at your writing and people have interest in what you write, then the platform pays you for your writing, and then the article could be picked up by one of their publication,
Right.
and that will count as seen as. While
Yes.
at this point you can't use Substack to be in the as seen as Substack, because it's not considered a publication as such. But it definitely gives you a lot of different types of exposure and the podcast, YouTube, Pinterest.
Yeah. So do you write on both platforms then? Do you write on Substack and Medium, or just Substack?
I've only written one piece on Medium. It's not a platform that I have pursued as such yet. I really like Substack. I genuinely like Substack, the notes and all the other, like I said, features that it provides. So that is my main platform. But
Sure.
for somebody who wants to try it out.
You mentioned when you send an application off, or when you actually try to get in touch with these people that are in the press, you think it's a good idea to follow up as well. Can you maybe touch on that a little bit? Because I think a lot of people maybe send off all these applications to the press, don't hear anything, and then just leave it as is.
So yes, definitely follow up. So once you send something, give it a week. If they don't get back to you within the week, send them. I call it a chaser, but don't make it sound like you're desperate for their reply. Basically, a follow up, kind of like what do you want to do? Are you interested or not? If they get back to you, then it's fine. If they don't, then leave it, because it's either like whatever angle you're offering on the piece, it may not be what they're looking for. It may be that the article has been dropped altogether. It may be that they're just busy and it takes time, because sometimes some publications, let's say like Elephant or even HuffPost or Yahoo, once you put something through, even if it's been accepted, before it gets published, it takes up to 3 months. So they have their own timing for things. Another thing that I know matters is if you're replying on something that is a topic that is in the news at the moment, that gets more attention than a topic that is more generalized. So they tend
I was just
to
about to ask you about that, actually. Are there certain topics that get accepted more by the publications than others? And I think you might have just
not accepted as much, but because they have to be on the piece, like they say. So if something is happening at a particular moment in time, they will be looking to talk to people that can talk about that topic. I give you an example. When there has been this big wave or boom of injectable for weight loss, which is still a very spoke about topic.
Sure.
Those, if somebody has expertise on these topics, nutrition, menopause, even sleeping, like sleep coaches, those are the ones that will always find feeler out from journalists that write about this topic, because this seems to be like the hot topic at the moment. Then of course you have anything related to business, marketing, platforms, AI, Bitcoins, politics. There is not many about fashion per se or spirituality, but there is a way around that.
Okay.
And there is a website called Your World.
Right.
So you can put your article on the platform. Okay? Whatever it is your topic of expertise, you can upload the article on the platform. If the journalists are not interested, you will definitely hear from them within 24 hours saying, we're not taking the article. If you're not hearing from them, that it's actually a good sign, because it means that the article is getting published.
Right. Okay. That's interesting.
The article can either be published in its entirety, like the first article that was published on London World and MSN.com. That's I published it on this website. And even at that point, there were PR companies on Facebook saying, if you don't do it through PR, they're not gonna let you publish anything. So I said, okay, let me give it a try. I like to prove people wrong.
Well, of course.
So I put it on it, and sure enough, it got published. Then I had a rejection. The second article, I was actually talking about something that I thought it was on the piece, something that was already in the news, and I was giving my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about a retailer that was going to start selling second-hand clothing on eBay.
Okay.
A big retailer.
Sure.
And that was understandably enough dropped, and they said, we're not taking this. My third one was the one that I mentioned about the colored nail trends, the nail polish trends for winter.
Uh-huh.
That one part of it ended up on Living 360. Because even publications that are out there and they have loads of readership,
Yep.
they're all struggling to find topics. They're all
Really?
struggling. Yes.
I find that really hard to believe.
No, journalists love to be pitched at. Like you're saving them, like you're shortening the amount of time and work that they have to
Making
put
their
in
life
this.
easy. Mm.
So part of that article was passed on to Living 360, and they've used it, saying Maria Bello, color expert,
Nice.
this, and that.
Nice.
So there are a lot of ways to go about it. It's definitely not impossible. You should never pay to have your expertise out there, because you are honestly doing a favor to the platform that is putting your article out.
Absolutely.
And I think this is what a lot of people fall in the trap of not believing in themselves and thinking like, oh, I can't do it unless I pay someone to do it for me. And it's very important to say that, because if you have paid to have something published, and then you approach a real journalist for a real publication in the press, and you're giving that paid article as proof of your writing, that is called a vanity piece. That is not something that you've earned it because you're an expert in your field. That is something that you've paid for, and no journalist is going to look at that.
Sure. And you mentioned it's always a good idea to Google your name as well. I saw that in the notes of this interview, and I thought, yeah, I must remember to actually ask you about that, because obviously, if you're putting yourself out there, you're sending off all of these applications, you're publishing content on the You World. I can't remember what the publication. Sorry, Your World. Sorry, you're publishing on there. You don't know when things are getting published, so I suppose it is a good idea to Google your name, isn't it?
Because the truth is, journalists get a lot of pitches. They have a lot of work. They won't necessarily go back to you.
Okay.
So if I hadn't Googled my name, and thank you for bringing that up, if I hadn't Googled my name, I wouldn't have found out that I was on Living 360. Because they never go back to me. So I knew that 2 weeks have gone, the article hadn't gotten rejected, so it meant that they were using it to some extent, so it had been published. But I didn't know where. Because behind You World, that is, I can't think of the name of it, but is a big umbrella company that owns a lot of publications in the UK. And as well as that, they put it in newsletters, MSN.com, or like I said, they give it to other publication for their work. So it's a lot of pitches from a lot of people and a lot of work, and understandably they can't go back to everyone. So Googling your name, it might sound as shallow as vanity, but it's actually useful if you put an article out to know where it is, so that you can have a link, save it, and you can say as seen as and the name of the publication. And there's no small publication or big publication. If you're in the press, whether it's online, because a lot of reading now happens online, it doesn't necessarily happen in paper and print, then use it. As long as you can prove that it's yours, that you have a link, and that is 100% yours, you're not plagiarizing or taking from anybody else, put out there that you are in the press as the expert.
Excellent. I absolutely love that. That is so good. So I'm excited to ask you this next question then. So let's say, for example, you get published in 2 or 3 publications. You mentioned The Sun, you mentioned The Guardian, and is it Life, the 360 magazine? Living 360 magazine. Is it a good idea then, say for example in your Substack, in your bio for example, is it good to actually mention that in your bio? So at least if a journalist comes across your work, they can actually see you've already been published. Will that actually help, do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That comes with the as seen as and the name of the publication. One thing that I would say though, is some people, you will see that they have the banners with the logos of all the press or channels they've been on. Make sure that you are authorized by that particular publication or channel to use that logo, because that's copyright infringement. But writing as seen as and the name of the publication, and have some place where you have a link to the article, that is absolutely fine. Like I have all of mine on Linktree. At the top, I have press and all my articles.
Excellent, excellent. And what I also want you to touch on as well, and I think I see it in the notes of this interview, is if you're a book publisher or if you're looking to actually publish your own book, you have some very specific advice for that as well, don't you, Maria?
Yes. So, and this is coming from the PR, because I it's over a decade that I talk to PR and I try to network with there, because they hold a lot of leverage in different fields. So because I am in the process of writing a book, I was asking for some general advice, and they said at least 6 months before you are publishing the book, put the filler out and start talking about it. Start getting the interest of the press. Not necessarily speak about it in the press, but start talking about it with journalists. That's why I said networking and connections are so important. Maybe send them an extract and get their opinion. So when the launch date is out, then you've done all the advertising work behind it. But if you publish something and then you're hoping to get the journalist attention, that becomes trickier. I was also told that they don't tend to pay attention to self-published books. So all the authors that publish on Amazon KDP, I don't know if I can say Amazon on the interview. But
Yeah, no problem.
but again, I don't believe in that statement. I think it's more like to get people to work with the PR company and have them do the connection. If you've done the work of connecting with people, engaging in a friendly way, not with the purpose of getting something out, socializing, when the time comes, you will have a decent amount of people that you can go to in the press or in the PR that could give even something like a review of an extract of your book. That goes a long way.
Yeah. What I'd also add as well, and this is not something we talked about beforehand, but I actually think it actually helps you as either a YouTuber, for example, or you're actually producing content, or if you're a coach or a consultant, the fact that you are referenced in these major publications, when you're actually going to actually find clients or you're trying to maybe snag a client, they can Google your name, and the fact that they see your name against all these major publications is going to be amazing for your brand, isn't it?
It is. Because like I said, they really don't publish any Tom, Dick, and Harry. Like you have to prove that you know what you're talking about, and
Sure.
you have to. It's very important to answer to their pitch exactly with what they want. If they're looking for a psychologist, but you're a mindset coach, don't go and pitch them trying to convince them that you know more than the psychologist. If they
Sure.
ask for the psychologist, they will want the perspective of a psychologist. So
Yeah.
really read the room, read the page, and reply with something that is applicable to what they're asking for, because they're not going to change their mind just because you've DM'd them. And then another very important thing, which has proved valid in over a decade dealing with PR and journalists, always send a thank you note. So
That's really nice touch.
if they have an office, then a handwritten one goes a long way. If they're freelancing and of course they're working from home, then send an email, a thank you email.
That's really nice. I love that. Yeah. So what else I was going to ask you, I was thinking of if, say, for example, somebody's just like starting out and they want to actually get their feet wet, I know you gave us the 3 steps. Is there a step before that, or is it just part of the 3 steps that you mentioned earlier on in the podcast? If somebody wanted to start getting press, is that first step the first step?
So if you already had a blog and you've been writing for a while and you're confident about your writing, then pitch them straight away. If you find that there's a journalist looking for your kind of expertise and you fit in what they're looking for, then go for it. Absolutely.
Excellent. And is it a good idea as well to make sure your bios are all the same as well across all the platforms? And I remember reading something before that was saying if your bio is one thing in one publication, it's another thing on the other. There's a bit of a conflict, isn't there? And the journalists will look down on that.
Now I'm gonna start thinking about all my bios, but I can't say I've experienced that. Probably because all my bios say pretty much the same thing. And because my practice, it's a hybrid of fashion and spirituality. So I have, how can I say, my knowledge is a bit broader than just one specific niche. But no, I can't say that is the case. They're looking for content, and they're really good at spotting if you're a fake or if you're genuine at what you're writing.
Excellent. And I also think as well, Maria, if you are someone that has a particular qualification, or if you're a doctor in that field, this is something you really should be on, isn't it, really? This is something you really should start doing, is getting your name out there, getting your voice out there, start publishing, because they are looking for people that are actually qualified in these roles. And I think you'll probably get more publications publishing you if you are actually registered as a professional in that niche.
That definitely helps. Again, with ChatGPT and the internet world, there is a lot of way of faking qualifications. I think the content has to be strong.
Yes.
If the content is strong, you're proving that you know what you're talking about. Networking, build connection, very, very important. Always be polite, always thank you. Don't over harass them, even if they're on X. That doesn't mean sending hundreds of comments or DMs because they're busy.
Yeah.
In my experience, these are the easiest and most basic things that I've used, basic to an extent, and they've worked.
Yeah.
And if they worked for me, I think they can work for anybody else. And I was told by PRs, you will never get in the press, and that was my challenge, proving them wrong.
Yeah, you certainly did.
Because there is always a walk around. Like if your knowledge is strong and you believe in yourself and you believe in what you're teaching any what you know, that shows. And journalists are looking for article ideas and help and anything that can make their job easier.
Excellent. No, I appreciate that. So do you think it's a good idea then that once, like for example, you have actually now been published in these publications. Is it a good idea to kind of have your own little Rolodex of people that have actually, or journalists that have actually published you, so you can basically keep in touch with them? So I'm not saying, like you said, harass them or always send them the messages on X, but at least maybe just keep in touch, because I suppose the fact that they've published you once, there's a strong possibility that they may publish you again.
Absolutely. So that is exactly what I do. I'm not on WhatsApp terms with them, but I definitely have their emails. So if I have ideas, you can always pitch them. And I would say actually do so, because even if they quickly read your email, and when I say email them, I don't mean write a Shakespearean monologue. Be to the point. Because nobody has the time to read. Really be to the point with your pitch.
Yes.
So they can quickly go through it or have whatever platform they're using to summarize it. And if they're not looking for that particular topic at that time, they will keep your email. They will know that when the time comes, they have their go-to person to contact, to comment about something or write about that topic.
And do you recommend as well having a press kit as well? Maybe you can explain what a press kit is, but do you actually recommend having one of those as well, Maria?
There's no harm in it. A press kit is like a portfolio where you talk about what you do, what's your, the core message of your brand, and as well as link to the press or link to your blogs. If you're a blogger, you would add, how many people you have coming to your website, how many minutes they're spending on it, how many articles they're reading. It's a lot of technical stuff. I don't have one.
Okay.
Because I don't have a blog. Substack is my blog, but there's no harm, I guess. I cannot tell you whether or not they're actually reading it. That is another topic. And again, we have to think that everybody's pressed on time.
Yeah.
Journalists more than ever.
I suppose it doesn't hurt if you can attach it, I suppose. They've got the choice then whether they read it or they don't read it, I suppose.
Absolutely. But if you have a blog or if you're on Substack and your articles are, SEO friendly, then they can quickly Google your name and they will get the same amount of information. You were talking the other day about the 0-click. So Google will give them a summary of all the places where you've been, all the articles that you've published. The most popular one will be at the top. And I think that will probably be quicker for a journalist to just Google your name and see what Google comes up with than having to go through, the press packet.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, Maria, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for lending us your knowledge on actually getting publicized in these publications. Where can people find you? Where's the best place to get in touch with you if people are after more of what you offer regarding your services in fashion?
So I'm on Substack as Maria Bello. Substack at Maria Bello, and that is my main platform. So if you want to know exactly what I coach on, what my knowledge is, that is the place. That is the place to go. And on there you will find my link tree, where you will find all the articles where have been published, whether as my own article or something that I've contributed on.
Excellent. Appreciate it. Well, thank you so much, Maria. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.